We are on.
All right. Hello, everyone. We'll wait just a minute to let people get in, and then I'll go over a few little housekeeping things before we get started. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Vanessa. I'm with the Dallas Public Library. And thank you so much for the Department of Environmental Equality and Sustainability for hosting this program today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them in just a moment. Just so you know, you will be muted during the presentation. If you have any questions for any of the presenters, you can put them on the chat. This program is also being recorded. So if you would like to not appear on the recording, you can turn your camera off. The recording will be available afterwards on the library's YouTube site. So if you missed part of today, or if you want to go back and rewatch, that will be available to rewatch as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Danielle. Danielle, thank you so much. Oh, Danielle, you're muted. Okay.
All right. Yeah, let's start over. Thank you for joining us today for another wonderful edition of Earth Day Every Day. We're especially grateful to our partners, Vanessa and Jordan, and all the wonderful team at the Dallas Public Library. My name is Danielle McClelland with the OEQS Outreach Team, and I am joined today by Nedra Richard Morgan, who will be co-hosting with me. Nedra is an environmental coordinator with OEQS, and our outreach team focuses on 8 major topics: air quality, energy, green living, stormwater, water conservation, urban agriculture, zero waste, and the City of Dallas's Comprehensive Environmental Climate Action Plan, or CCAP. Let me take just a quick moment to focus on one of those topics. With all of the rain we've been having and the sleepless nights because of the lightning and thunder, I'd like to encourage all of you who have pets to make sure to pick up your pet waste at least once a week. And during these days of rain, tiptoe out there between rain showers and please pick it up and toss it into the trash can. Pet waste has toxins such as bacteria and parasites in it that can contaminate our water supply. So please help us keep our stormwater clean. I also would like to mention that this month is Compost Awareness Month. So join us next Monday, May 24th, as Turn provides terrific information about composting and why it's important to learn about it. We look forward to seeing you next Monday too. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce today's program, Cruising in the Texas Outdoors. With summertime ahead of us, let's learn about getting outdoors and particularly how to get the kids to join us away from video games and TV screens. Let's get connected to nature. We have with us today an expert to help with this purpose, Texas Children in Nature Network. TCINN is a grassroots network of over 500 partner organizations and individuals dedicated to connecting children and families with nature in Texas. The main reason for this organization is to help us balance out our lives and encourage us all to be healthier, happier, and smarter by experiencing nature. Sarah Coles is the executive director for Texas Children in Nature Network. Professionally, Sarah has been working with the informal education system for the last 14 years. Her career has taken her from being in the classroom for 2 years to moving into informal education and working at various institutions across the nation. After focusing mainly on ecohistory, that's the study of how humans have adapted and influenced their environment, Sarah found her passion, seeing children, students, and families interact with nature. Sarah has a BA in history from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, followed by a master's in curriculum and instruction from Boston College and a master's in liberal studies from the University of Miami. So we know we're in the best hands. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you for having us today. I'm really excited to bring you some presentations from some of our partners from all across the state. While we were planning this presentation, we really thought about how can families get out there and explore our Texas around us. And so we've got some presentations from some really great organizations that we partner with across the state. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and then I am going to turn it over to Carrie with the Dallas Zoo.
Hello, everyone.
the slides come up. It's a great impact to see those photos pop up for you. Excited to be here from the zoo, and just to let everybody know about some of the ways that you can engage with nature, maybe in some ways that you're not thinking about when you come to the zoo. There's an obvious connection with us, but there's some other kind of deeper engagement opportunities for kids of all ages. You want to move to the next slide, Sarah? We will dive in. So just a little bit about the Dallas Zoo. I'll start with a little personal anecdote in that I grew up in Dallas, and the Dallas Zoo was my field trip zoo when I was a kid. So to now be here and be working in the marketing department and working with all of the different teams here that help with engagement and with education is a dream. We are the oldest and largest zoo in Texas. We were started in 1888 with just a few animals, but we are at 106 acres now. So there's lots of nature out there to explore when you come to the zoo. Our mission is engaging people and saving wildlife. And that is, as with everyone's mission, really our North Star. And so all of the programs that we do really look at how we can engage people, again, of all ages, to educate and to help share information. And that translates into saving wildlife. And part of what our kind of baseline and foundation is creating a better world for animals. We know that so much of our lives are impacted by animals and the environments that they live in because we share that environment. So that's an important piece for us to make sure that everything we're doing and everything we're communicating to our guests and our volunteers and our donors is all about creating a better world for animals. Let's move to the next slide. This is what you think of in most cases when you think about the zoo. You want to come see the animals and have some of those fun engagements, like this little one with the bird that landed on her head. Side note and personal anecdote, I'm terrified of birds. So that situation in the middle of this slide would be a nightmare for me. I'm slowly overcoming that in working at the zoo. But this is a great thing about the zoo is, from when I was a child and coming here, one of the biggest changes you'll see is that these habitats, down in the bottom left is our Giants of the Savannah habitat, and that's about 10 years old. That's very representative of the kinds of experiences you will see here at the Dallas Zoo. We are all about these open and natural habitats and providing the animals that you can see and engage with those types of environments that as close as we can replicate to what they would have in the wild, which is really important for a lot of different reasons, mainly for the education piece, for their comfort and sort of sustainability, but also for the education piece, so that as you see these animals when you come to the zoo, you understand that this is a space that is similar to what they would live in. So moving on to the next slide. While that's what you think of with a zoo visit, there's a lot more to the zoo that we do. So we have a full slate of education programs that we'll talk a little bit more about. We've got a phenomenal community engagement group that will takes animals out, ambassador animals out, but also has a lot of impact in being able to get out into the environment and give people some experiences with conservation in their own neighborhoods. We do a lot of research here that contributes to not only animal and that we share across other accredited institutions, but that can then contribute to programs that we're doing with our conservation partners and with environmental partners. And then conservation, that's a root of everything we do. We are incredibly proud of the work that we do, not only to help conserve and help people understand how important conservation is, but we actually go into the field and do conservation work. Our staff does. We're also supporting conservation partners around the world. So there's a lot of, at the root of that, again, about engaging people on all of these different levels and helping them understand how saving wildlife is a part of saving the environment and in producing a better experience in nature. Let's go into some of the details on some of the things we do. Our education program at the zoo is phenomenal, and everything that that they do and what they look at is all rooted in the natural world. And so while we pivoted last year, as we all had to, and created some virtual programs, we moved to a program called Dallas Zoo Close-Ups that we actually still have in place. That is a live program that that actually helps supplement classroom programs. And so teachers and educators were able to reach out and have kind of a live connection with the zoo. While we couldn't have people out for field trips and things like that, you could still have this connection where we would talk about a habitat, talk about animal adaptations. So there's a lot of engagement there still to be able to communicate those messages. And then a Playful Zoology, which was a program that was focused on 3 to 5 year olds. So this was really a full scale, almost preschool-like program that you could sign up for several sessions that was really meant to help with home learning during kind of the quarantine period. So we were able to pivot and still focus on the importance of getting kids out of the house if you were home during quarantine, and taking a lot of that learning into the backyard and taking a lot of materials from the backyard, bringing those in house, and then exploring them and talking about, you know, kind of how that relates to and learning from that. We are slowly moving back into a little bit more normal slate of things. So you'll see our themed day camps and week-long camps. We typically have spring, summer, fall, and winter. The schedule is still in flux a little bit. We've just had spring day camps and start our summer camps in the next week or so. So we're excited to say those are sold out. So a great response to coming back. But everything that we do in terms of camps, that's a great combination of kind of indoor learning. And then the kids always get a chance to go out into the zoo and experience the zoo with an educator, a trained educator with them to kind of for that guided piece. We do field trips, but also have those program add-ons. And so while we'll get back to the field trips and bringing kids out, there were different options for creating those kinds of programs that you can then take back to your classroom following a zoo visit and be able to explore deeper what you saw, the connections that you heard, things you learned about the animals, and make those connections back with your life. And then smaller programs like Stroller Buddies and Friday Safari that are more for the different levels of youth. Smaller groups that can come in, all are still guided by our trained educators, which is really important. Spending a lot of time outside, getting that appreciation for the space and outdoors, but also the animals that we have and what role they play. And then we have, kind of moving up the scale, we have our zoo crew volunteering opportunities, which ages 13 to 17. So as those kids get a little bit older, there's a lot of fun and awe about when kids come to the zoo and see the animals. There's that period, we usually, you know, between 7, 8 and kind of 10, 12. There's sort of, it becomes a, yeah, that's cool, let's go to the zoo. And so one of the things that we really try to do is to grab those kids as they enter those teen years and really start to say, this is a volunteering opportunity and this leads into a career potentially. So for those kids who want to spend time outside, that's such an awesome opportunity to come into the zoo and be able to experience all the different departments and spend a lot of time engaging with other kids and other youth who come into the zoo. So it's a phenomenal program that the education team continues to build out and look for ways to serve the audiences that are coming in and making sure we're getting that education piece across. Our next slide is, I don't know how many of you know, but we actually have a preschool here at the Dallas Zoo. So this started back in 2018. It's the only full day nature-based preschool in South Dallas. It is a fantastic program that serves both our staff as a preschool, but also folks from all over the Metroplex have come. We now have 2, or this fall, we'll have 2 separate classes in the preschool. And they've done a phenomenal job. This is really, as we talk about a nature-based preschool, this philosophy is all about that connection that young children make to animals. And when you are connecting their role in the world to animals and to nature, it just improves their overall outlook on the world, emotional intelligence, compassion. So just turning out a more well-rounded and kind of a great setup for school readiness as they go through these programs. And that's another great combination of preschool and actual learning. in the classroom, as well as just outside the classroom in some nature areas, as well as in the zoo. So it's a fantastic combination, and it's so much fun to see these little kids walking around the zoo. There's some great stories about how they become zoo ambassadors themselves and take so much pride in the zoo that when they're walking through the zoo, they will actually be actively picking up trash and helping people understand why that's really important. So that education piece is coming through, and it's incredibly clear how critical that is and how important it is and what these kids are taking away from that. And then, as building on that, there are lots of other opportunities to kind of get out into nature with our teams that aren't zoo based. So we have what we call the Wild Earth Action Team, and they are often doing work here at the zoo and doing plantings or doing different kind of conservation message programs, but they actually go out into local areas and do creek cleanups and do other bed cleanups here, as well as take trips. So they're actually going to the coast, or they'll go to East Texas to Big Thicket Forest, and we do habitat cleanups and we do tree planting sessions. And so it's a great way to, as a family, engage, get the kids out into spaces. And again, talking about and led by our conservation teams, talking about why that's so important and why, the trash that we're picking up here in the Trinity in North Texas has an impact on the coast, that the health and the livelihood of the birds on the coast, which that's a point that's hard to make when you're looking at a map or when you're just looking at something, but being out there and being able to know that you're picking this trash up that's having an impact. So it's a great way for us to be able to kind of use that conservation interpreter idea that's here at the zoo, and then with our animal outreach team that goes out into the community as well. They're ambassadors that help talk about the animals and these animals and what their brethren in the wild are facing, and why small actions we can all take have such a huge impact around the world. And so, those messages, and I think that's what's so critical to us, going back to that mission of engaging people and saving wildlife. We know that when you come to the zoo and you make that connection with an animal, you see that animal, you look them in the eye, you understand where they live, that sets you on a more positive path to responding to that animal, to understanding that animal's plight, and making sure that we're taking action here, but also thinking about the broader impact of all of our actions, and setting up that next generation of conservationists, which we all need and want. So that's a quick look at the zoo. There's a lot to it, and a lot of programs that we have. My information is here, so if you have some questions or about the programs or other things we can do. And a great way to stay in touch with us is absolutely on social media. We talk about a lot of these programs, certainly talk about when they open up, but talk about the value that they bring, and showcase some of the fun projects and the work that the kids are doing. So we'll see you on social media.
Thank you, Carrie. Next up, we have Cheryl with the Fort Worth Botanic Garden and the Botanical Research Institute of Texas.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Cheryl Potemkin. I'm the Early Childhood Program Manager here at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden and the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. I am one piece of our education team. And I wanted to highlight our address here because I know all of you are in Dallas. Most of our friends tuning in are in Dallas, and we are a very short drive to experience some extra nature here just right down the freeway in Fort Worth. Next, Sarah. So visit and explore. We are open 7 days a week. The garden is open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do charge admission, but if you are, say, a member of other APGA gardens, there is a reciprocal benefits program that will help you reduce the cost of admission here at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden. I'll leave that as kind of vague. And we do offer a lot of programs focused on, we're led by conservation. We really feel that by fostering an attention to nature and a strong emotional connection to nature, that we're raising the next generation of stewards for this earth. So all of our programs are designed to really foster this connection, to connect with the world that you see around you. And a lot of times I talk about and design programs where we're connecting with nature that you'll see here, but that you'll also see in your everyday world. So when I'm doing student programs, this month we are looking at dandelions, because those are wildflowers that are so beneficial, but that also grow in the cracks of your sidewalk. And learning why maybe you don't want to rip them up, but exploring their value and their beauty. And of course, we go way beyond dandelions as well, into really beautiful stuff. We have at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden, it is the oldest botanic garden in the state of Texas. We have over 110 acres to explore, and there's more than 2,500 species of plants here. And we have 23 specialty gardens highlighting that sort of stuff. We have a Japanese garden, we have a conservatory, we have little cactus gardens and native tree boardwalks. So there's a lot to explore and a lot to learn. And we also have lots of art nestled in throughout. On the previous slide, I gave you a couple of pictures of some of our current exhibits. We do have some special exhibits that we nest into our gardens. The top one there is Stickworks by Patrick Doherty, and that is a massive stick sculpture. All of those sticks were harvested from the local area. A lot of them are rough dogwood, and that was built by the artist and our volunteers. And I'll talk about our volunteer program here in a bit, but that is it's a touchable, walkable, explorable sculpture. All of those little passageways you can walk through, you can walk inside. It's just a really beautiful natural art piece. And then not so natural materials, but definitely posing the question and highlighting the contrast between the human-made environment and the natural world. That monarch sculpture is made with Lego bricks. And so that is Nature Connects by Sean Kenny. And we are really excited to have just opened that. All of those brick sculptures are highlighting the human relationship to the natural world. So we're really excited. That's a very limited exhibit, and you can view that, I believe, through the end of July. So hurry and come out to see that. And then I'll lead into our education and volunteer programs. So we have 4 big areas where you can get involved, where you can come and visit us in a variety of ways. So children and families, we have programs for students and teachers. We have adult classes. You don't have to be a child to want to connect with nature. And then our volunteer program as well. And I'll go all the way back over to my left side of the screen. In children and families, we have programs starting at age 18 months with our pre-K programs. Those range 18 months to about 6. We have story times twice a month where we read a nature-connected story, we explore the space, we have a nature challenge, and families get an extension to go home and continue the exploration. And with what the pandemic highlighted for us is that we needed to make sure that we had other avenues. Sometimes families can't make it to us. So those story times are now live streamed on our Facebook page, and our family extension is available as a link as well. So families can tune in for the story and do an exploration at their house. We also started offering, coming back out and into family programs, we started family workshops. Those will happen once a month, and they're usually with a community partner. We've done family yoga programs, art classes. It's really a wide variety, and we have some really great community partners, and we're working to bring those partners into the garden as well as families and bring everyone together for a really fun experience. The Girls Nature Workshops, those are a partnership with the Fort Worth Garden Club, and they are looking to inspire the next generation of ladies for the Garden Club. And that series gives girls the floriculture and horticulture skills to compete in the youth division of their annual competition every April. But it's a series of workshops and there's new skills every time. And camps, we normally offer camps. We have a few limiting factors this year that we're not doing drop-off camps. So instead this year you will find the adventure days and the garden kits. And those are a pre-registered backpack. You get to keep the backpack and all of the activities in it. They're all camp-inspired activities. And to go along with our Nature Connects exhibit, we've partnered with a local Lego brick shop. They are designing special Lego sets to go in all of the backpacks. So we're really excited about that. And then we've also offered a lot of homeschool days over this past year, and those have been really nice. So for learning pods and homeschool groups, those have been very popular, and we'd love to see everybody out for that. We're very well known for our student and teacher programs. We offer field trips all the way from pre-K through grade 12. They're STEM-based, environmental STEM-based learning trips, really rich, mostly outdoors, weather permitting. And for those that can't make it to us, we have a pre-K outreach program. And that's with, I don't know, oh, she's not behind me today. She's in the treehouse. That's with my puppet, Bella the Begonia. And we started a digital platform this year for those who are out of our range for travel, as well as we were not able to travel to campuses this year. So we started a digital platform to support those classrooms. We'll be offering professional development for teachers coming soon. We had to take off for the pandemic, and those will be coming back quite soon. And we have a middle school, high school leadership program focused on environmental service, and that's Green Revolution. We partner with schools to start that up. And then I am really proud and excited. This is a project that's very close to my heart, is Ole Texas, and Ole, O-L-E, being outdoor learning environments. And this is a statewide initiative looking at changing literally the landscape for early childhood in those childcare centers, for pre-K classrooms, pre-K campuses. We are implementing best practices that include looping pathways to encourage movement and combat childhood obesity. But along with that, we want native plants in those spaces, pickable plants to play with loose parts. So, and native plants provide pickable parts and durability and low maintenance. So all of that is woven together, both understanding food systems, understanding native habitats, outdoor exploration, providing more learning opportunities, and healthy movement. It all just comes really together nicely. Our adult classes follow a variety of themes. So whatever it is you're interested in, if you want to get really deep into advancing your horticulture, your gardening skills, we have classes to support that. If you're looking to appreciate nature through arts and crafts, we have classes offering that. I'm really excited about one on cactuses coming up. And food and wellness, you'll find yoga classes in the garden. We've done fermenting classes, lots of fun stuff coming up. And then our volunteer program, we would love to have you come and volunteer. There are outdoor options, there's indoor options. We have an entire research team of botanists and a huge herbarium filled with plant collections. So whether you're interested in digging in the dirt or learning more plant research, we have options either way and volunteer opportunities. And we're really excited to start offering volunteer opportunities to a younger audience. And we have a new junior volunteer program. So contact me about that if you've got teenagers interested in the natural world. We've got fun stuff and internships and community service projects as well. I think that's most of it. I love that we have both these curated gardens throughout, and we have really wild spaces as well. Behind Britt, we have a pocket prairie. We were able to do our first controlled burn on the prairie this past January. And I kind of want to take my computer and look out my window so you can see how green it is. Everything was burned to ashes in January, and even through the freeze and the drought and now all the rain, everything is beautiful. So you can come take off and run through our pocket prairie. You might find my friend the armadillo back there. He comes to visit me sometimes. And explore our curated gardens and our natural spaces. We have a really beautiful native beds garden called Rock Spring, and that's really inspired by the spring that used to be here before the freeway was here. Yeah, reach out about programs. We're happy to talk. We're happy to talk possibilities between our neighbors in Dallas. So we're happy to be here and happy to share.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Yay.
Next up, we have Julie with the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. So we're moving down into Austin.
All right, welcome everyone to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. My name is Julie Graham and I'm the education coordinator there. Let us go ahead and get started on our visit. Next, please. Our mission is inspiring the conservation of native plants. Next. And we do that through education, collaboration, and demonstration. Next. And none of that could have been possible if it had not been for our founders, Lady Bird Johnson and Helen Hayes. Next. And the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center didn't start off that way. We started off as the National Wildflower Research Center in 1982. In 1995, we moved to our current location. Then in 1997 is when we got our name, the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. In 2006, we became part of the University of Texas. Now, not a lot of people realize that, but we are a part of the University of Texas. And that means we need to follow all the rules and regulations of the University of Texas. And then in 2017, we did become the Botanic Garden of Texas. Next. All right. One of the biggest events in the summertime we have is Nature Nights. And Nature Nights are family-friendly events where everyone is learning about the ecology of Texas every Thursday evening in June from 6 to 9 p.m. And did I mention free admission? This year, due to the pandemic, it is a reservations required evening. We are going to be passing out activity kits, and in those kits, we're going to have materials and suggestions for things that you can do while you're out at the center and what you can do at home. So for each week, we will have a different activity kit, and I know that we're going to have some folks that are still going to want some of their technology. So we do have a Kahoot game that they can do, and we have the Texas Nature Challenge. But to do that Texas Nature Challenge, you have to be out at the Wildflower Center to do that. So if you find yourself in Austin on a Thursday evening in June and you need something to do, make a reservation and come on out. We would love to see you. Next, please. All right, our Lucy and Ian Family Garden. Not only do we have a great big play lawn for all the kids to get their wiggles out, That's over on the right side of our Linda's library. On the other side, what you can't see, is our Dino Creek, our grotto, our karst rocks, our stumpery, our nature build area, our dirt dig. All of that is there in our family garden. And just like what it says is that we're the perfect place for getting in touch with nature, with learning, and it's through discovery. But the best part of all of this is that the kids just think they're playing. They don't realize that they're learning. And I really think that that's the best way for a child to learn, is through play. Next. All right, our summer programs for 2021. COVID kind of did a job on our summer camps. So this year, instead of a regular summer camp, we're going to have family programs. So in June and July, 3 days a week for 3 hours a day, we're having family programs, like I said. And our family programs are going to have activities, hikes, arts and crafts, things just like you would expect to find at a summer camp for just the kids, but it's going to be for the family. Next. All right, our youth and family programs. Year round, we have our weekly story time. And as of right now, I believe those are going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 10:30. So once you come in, pay your admission, or if you're a member, there's no admission. You come in at those times and you'll have your story time. We also have parent and toddler yoga. And then in the fall and winter and spring and summer, we do have different activities and programs that go on throughout the year. So you just need to come on out and see what we've got. Next, please. The Molly Steve Zachary Texas Arboretum. A big title for a great big area. If you want to build a fort, you need to come out to the Arboretum. We have a huge fort build area with a lot of loose parts for kids and grown-ups alike to create their vision of a fort. If you want to swing, go to the Cathedral of Oaks and just find a swing and relax and swing. If you want to learn a little bit of history, we have what's called the Hall of Texas Heroes. And we had our gardeners, some of our gardeners went throughout the state of Texas and collected acorns from historically significant oak trees. They planted them, they sprouted, and now we have young oak trees in this whole big circular area. And we have interpretation about all of these oak trees. It's really very fascinating to learn about the history of these trees. And then, if that was not enough, if you can see that loop that's going around right past the swings, that is a mile loop. So you can just take a walk around the whole Arboretum area. And I have to tell you, first thing in the morning is a great time to go out and walk the loop. It's a wonderful place to be. Next, please. All right. For some fun family activities and events we have at the Wildflower Center, Fortlandia is one of them. It happens in October. It begins in October. And what it was is that we sent out proposals to designers to come up with their vision of what a fort was. And then some of those designers were selected to actually create their vision of a fort. And this was one of last year's forts, A-frame. So many ways that kids and grown-ups played on this fort. So in addition to Fortlandia, which was hugely popular, in December, we have our Luminations event. And then throughout a couple times a year, we have our dog days. And that's one where the dogs get to actually visit the Wildflower Center. Next, please. Now, how do you get to do this, you're asking? The best way to do that is to go to our website, wildflower.org, and then go to visit. That's going to give you all the information you need on how to make a reservation, because right now, due to COVID, we are requiring reservations. Our hours are 9 to 5. Now, if you are a member mornings are 8 to 9. We do have reciprocal admission, so definitely you should check about that if you're a member of a botanical garden in the area where you live. And right now, our Tuesday hours are extended through June 29th. And then in October, the hours are also extended for the Portlandia. If you're coming out during a holiday time, we do have some holiday closures. And remember, reservations are required, but we would so love to see everyone come out and visit us at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center in South Austin. Next. And we would like to thank you very much. And this picture right here, this is very special. If you do come out to visit, say in March, early April time, you might happen to see some little baby owlets. These are the owlets from not this year, but a past year from Athena. We have a great horned owl that has nested in that planter for the past 10 years. So once again, thank you. Athena thanks you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation, and we hope to see you at the Wildflower Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kaylee with Travis Audubon.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Zazula, and I am the Program and Education Coordinator for Travis Audubon, Austin's oldest conservation organization. We own and operate 3 sanctuaries and assist with the management of 1 more, and I'll be talking with you about the 3 that you are able to visit on your own. First, we have Blair Woods Sanctuary in East Austin, which is an absolute urban oasis. It's 10 acres of undeveloped wetlands, forest, and prairie. It's a much needed green space in a part of town where there's little green space left. And once you're there and walking the trails, you'll forget that you're in the city. The trail system here is fairly short, so it's perfect for families with small children. And there's a small pond, which is pictured here, where you can enjoy watching turtles, dragonflies, and wading birds from the pier. There are also picnic tables where you can enjoy lunch, and signage teaching you about the ecology and plant life of the property. Very recently, we restored a historic dairy barn on the property to be used as a shade structure for visitors. And in upcoming projects, we plan to install a bird blind, which is a structure that makes it easier for visitors to watch birds, and create ADA accessible trails. Next slide. Here's just a couple of photos of the kinds of wildlife you can find here. Ducks and wading birds near the pond year-round, lots of warblers during spring migration, small mammals like cottontails like the one pictured here, and lots of small reptiles. There is always an adventure in store at Blair Woods, and it is free and open to the public daily. Next slide. Next is Commons Ford Prairie in West Austin, which is part of the Commons Ford Park, owned and operated by the City of Austin. Travis Audubon's connection to this park is a unique one. Years ago, a group of our volunteers started the hard work of restoring 40 acres of native prairie on the property, which was incredibly important given that less than 1% of native prairies still exist in the US today. Not only does this prairie come alive with color in the spring as native wildflowers erupt, but it comes alive with grassland birds. Next slide. The Commons Ford Prairie is one of the best places to bird in Austin, boasting over 270 species of birds seen at the park. Pictured here is the unofficial mascot of the prairie, the scissor-tailed flycatcher, which is abundant in the spring and summer. On our website, we have a printable brochure to help adults and kids alike explore the prairie, and we have monthly bird walks led by excellent birders. The park is free and open to the public daily, so come explore a beautiful prairie brought back to life by the hard work and dedication of volunteers. Next slide. The last sanctuary I'll be talking about today is a particularly special one. Baker Sanctuary, which is just northwest of Austin, is 750 acres of hill country habitat, consisting mostly the iconic juniper oak forest necessary for an endangered songbird. This bird, seen on the next slide, is the golden-cheeked warbler, and it is the only bird in the world that exclusively breeds in Texas. In fact, they only breed in 29 counties in Texas. That makes every single golden-cheeked warbler in the world a native Texan. They spend their winters in Central America, but migrate to Texas in March to spend their spring and summers in the Lone Star State. Baker Sanctuary is home to over 70 breeding pairs of golden-cheeked warbler every year, and we are very proud of that. Since the sanctuary is such a delicate habitat for an endangered songbird, we only allow members of Travis Audubon to access the property. Fortunately, anyone can become a member, and for a reasonable annual fee, you can financially support our organization and gain daily access to an incredibly special sanctuary with a vast trail system, which is speckled with educational signage and ample opportunity to see golden-cheeked warblers and other wildlife. If you want to learn more about our sanctuaries, I encourage you to visit our website, travisaudubon.org. While you're there, you can also check out our events calendar, which includes virtual events that you can attend no matter your location, and become a member to support our organization and gain access to Baker Sanctuary, should you choose to visit Austin this summer. Thanks for your time and happy birding.
Thank you, Kaylee. And I'm now going to turn it over to Nicole as we move into San Antonio, and she's with the San Antonio Natural Areas.
Hi, everyone, and I'm excited to talk to you about our parks in San Antonio. So a lot of people who come to San Antonio or visit San Antonio, of course, you know about Fiesta Texas and SeaWorld, but we have so many more things to do and see in San Antonio, especially outdoors. And we can go to the next slide. And I'll be talking to you a little bit about mostly Friedrich Wilderness Park. It's over 600 acres right on the edge of the hill country in San Antonio. And one thing I do want to mention is sometimes, you know, when you're looking up parks for a particular city, it's a little overwhelming. And with the natural areas, we're actually a separate division within the Parks and Rec department. So all of our natural areas are free. They are open from sun up to sundown, and you don't need a reservation to come in because everything is free. We are a city park, so we're city tax paid, and we welcome you to the natural areas. And Friedrich Wilderness Park is a little over 600 acres, and it's grown to, and the city has acquired property over the years. And so I'll talk to you we probably have around 9 natural areas total, but I'm only going to highlight maybe about 3 or 4 of the larger ones in San Antonio. Okay, next slide. So the first one I mentioned is Friedrich Wilderness Park. That is right on the edge of the hill country, as I mentioned. And Medina River Natural Area is also a fairly large park. It is on the south side of San Antonio. If you're on your way to a small town called Poteet, they have the Poteet Strawberry Festival. Medina is right around that area. And Eisenhower Park is also a fairly large park. It's around, I believe, 400 acres or so, a little over 400 acres. And of course, you may have heard about Hardberger Park. Hardberger Park right now has been in the news for the large land bridge that was recently opened. And it's about 100, it's a wildlife bridge, and it's about 150 50 feet wide and pretty tall. It goes right over Wurzbach Parkway. And if you walk over the land bridge, you'll see all kinds of native trees and plants. There's even, at this park, there's multiple public art pieces. So it's a really interesting multi-use park, although it's still considered a natural area. Hardberger does have a lot of areas for children to play. There's an interactive kind of loose parts playground there, and swings and a field and a dog park. And I do want to mention there are only 2 parks in San Antonio that do not allow dogs. And so that's Friedrich and that is Crown Ridge Canyon. So as Kaylee mentioned earlier, we also have the golden cheek warbler habitat at Friedrich Wilderness Park and also at Crown Ridge Canyon in Eisenhower. And so just knowing that these areas are very sensitive, we don't allow dogs, at least at those two parks. Next. So this is the golden cheek warbler you saw earlier, and all of the babies are born in Texas, which makes it very unique. And let's see, I don't know if there's anything else that she didn't mention, but these birds tend to come in March, and then they're there till about the end of July. So we do see a lot of birders around the world coming to Friedrich because it is a hot spot for birding. I think there have been about 400 documented species over the years at Friedrich alone. So a lot of different birds, a lot of diversity. And, you know, we are known as a birding hotspot. So we can go to the next slide. And this is another bird that is called the black-capped vireo. And it does nest in that area near where the golden cheek warbler is. Although you probably won't see it at Friedrich now, we do have this bird at one of the natural spaces that the city owns that is unfortunately not open to the public, but it's still out there that this bird nest at Friedrich, but it hasn't been seen in a couple of years. But recently there was a sighting on the south side of San Antonio around the Missions area. So we can go to the next slide. And some of the programs we offer at Friedrich and other parks are guided walks. So we do guided hikes each month, and we change the speakers, presenters who have different backgrounds. So we just started doing in-person programs again. I know this summer it's, you know, a lot of places are still up in the air and working out logistics around, you know, this new normal. So we are doing our once a month hikes, but since we started last month, they have literally filled up within just a day. So keep checking our calendar, and you'll have the website at the end of the presentation where you can book programs that you want to attend or guided hikes. Next. And here's another image of a guided hike. Now, I changed the themes each time. So like this particular theme, we did a sunrise hike, which was really fun. I hadn't done that before. And we got out there really early in the morning. And these hikes are nice because it's really, really kind of an all ages hike for the younger kids who can kind of keep up. But yeah, it was a really fun one. We'll be doing that again this summer. Next. And then we also offer workshops. So this particular workshop, it was a bee workshop. And so we had a beekeeper come in and talk about the different types of tools that they use when they're out in the field doing bee rescue work. And so that was really fun. Next, that's one of the more popular programs. And I just list all the addresses of some of the natural areas. It looks like it got cut off on the bottom. I had transitioned this from PowerPoint to Google Slides, so sorry about that. Now, Crown Ridge is a smaller park. That's why I didn't really highlight that too much. It's right near Friedrich Wilderness Park, where my office is. I do want to mention Friedrich, it gets extremely crowded on weekends. So the park is really ideal to go to during the week. But we have, you know, we have over 10 miles of hiking trails, and some of them are more challenging, but they, you know, lots of options for a longer hike. And then Medina is another one of my personal favorites. It's on the south side and has a river going through it. And it's also has places where you can camp and fishing access points. Next. And so on fasana.org, you will find all kinds of things, not just programs, but I've posted kids activities. We have plant lists if you'd like to see the plant list for our area, maps to the park. And FASANA stands for Friends of San Antonio Natural Areas. That is our nonprofit support group. So much of what I post is just, I can post it so much easier. So when you're going to the city parks website, although you'll find a lot of information there, it's sometimes buried because, you know, we have over 300 parks that are listed in San Antonio. So things sometimes get buried. And so fasana.org is just kind of an all-encompassing one-stop shop for nature programs that are in the natural areas. And hopefully this doesn't confuse you all too much. There is another website for Hardberger Park, and that's Hardberger Conservancy, and I forgot to put it on there, hardbergerconservancy.org. And that is, if you want to see the land bridge or visit Hardberger Park, you can check out their website. There's more information, although you will find information on FASANA for Hardberger Park because they have their own support nonprofit for that particular park. So, and that's all I have. I hope that you all can take the time to visit the natural areas. It really is sort of a jewel. And I'm always taking the time on my weekends to even go out because I love it. I see something new and different every time I go out on the trails.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Yeah.
It looks like our next speaker was having some technical difficulties and hasn't been able to join us. So I am going to move on to Bianca, who is with Benson Rio Grand Valley State Park and the World Birding Center. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca. I'm with of course, the Benson Rio Grande Valley State Park and World Birding Center. I'm happy to be here with you all today. If you would go to the next slide. So here in the Rio Grande Valley, nature and culture are very much associated with family. We do a lot of family-oriented things. That is actually the nature center that is in our state park. There are over 21 nature sites in our area, and 9 of those make up the World Birding Center. I can actually give that. Oh, sweet. We have the link in the chat. Thank you. In the Rio Grande Valley, there are tons of different types of habitats that you run into. I listed 4 of them there for you. Anywhere from the island, the coastal beaches and everything, down through the river of the Rio Grande. There's tons of different trees, plants, animals. But the main focus, again, and the reason that we are the World Birding Center is because of the birds. We do a lot of programs here in this picture. You can see the little puppet show for the kids. We actually have a couple of different things here that are also animals with their own families. We are a conservation dedicated park, so we don't have any sort of vehicles within the park like other state parks do. It is just hiking, biking, etc. Next slide. So we have a lot of activities for everyone. Again, first on the list, birding. It is a major site for birding. Lots of migratory birds use this area as a flyaway before they get to the rest of the state. Here in this picture, we've got a whole little family. The kids there are using the Junior Ranger backpack, which is something that we offer at the park as well. It's something you can find at H State Park, and I highly recommend if you've got any kiddos to go ahead and get a loaner backpack. It's free, you just have to sign off on it. And to actually complete the Junior Ranger journal. That way the kiddos can get their Junior Ranger badges and be part of the awesome mess that is the conservation, state parks. It's just great. All of these other activities we do have here at our park. There's a whole list of them: biking, hiking, camping, etc. Specifically at the parks, the state parks of the Rio Grande Valley, you have what are called tram tours. So you can actually go through the park in style with your family, with your kiddos. You know, if the kiddos get tired walking after a little while, you can take the tram the rest of the way. It's great, it's perfect. Wildlife viewing extends beyond just the birds. So butterflies are really big in the valley as well, dragonflies. And then we've got bird blinds and the Hawk Tower, where you can actually see more than just birds. You can see javelinas and other wildlife. And all of this comes back to something that was mentioned earlier, which I really liked, was stewardship. We really want the young ones to come into nature and to grow up to be stewards, or to grow up to actually come into the career being a park ranger or somebody affiliated with one of the cities or county parks. Next slide. And with that being said, we do also have a lot of opportunities for people looking into that. Volunteer opportunities, we have garden volunteers, nature center volunteers, and essentially what that is that you get to come out here, do some conservation with us. We'll plant trees each year. We have people at the nature center who will greet the visitors coming in and who actually get to talk about all the wildlife that you see in the park. Especially when we're doing our feeding. We do bird feeding from October to March each year. And you get to see the birds up close. If you have a camera, it's great for photography. And you get to learn about the birds as you view them in person, doing their thing. We have internships with the park and ambassadors. So ambassadors get to work on projects within the park. It can be conservation, it can be interpretation, education. They get a main project and they just get to go with it, which is awesome. So if you want to try and do something like that, you just have to go through our website and apply for it. Same thing with the internships, except the internships, you get to work a little bit more closely with the staff and you get to learn a little bit more about the different jobs that we have here. Park hosts, that is one of the more sought out occupations. So we have a couple of sites for RVers, and our park hosts get to actually stay in the park during their duration, and they volunteer with us while they're here staying. And so they get to learn about the way the park works, as well as stay in the park and just enjoy the wildlife on their days off. So really, really awesome. And outreach. We do a lot of stuff with schools, as well as scouts. And we just did something recently with ROTC. So there's a whole bunch of different things that we're into that I really hope you all will be into as well. I know up there on the top picture on the right-hand side, there's an example of our tree planting each year. This picture actually here at the bottom, the big picture, is from Hugh Ramsey Park, which we have somebody from Texas Parks and Wildlife who is actually banding hummingbirds, and it's open to the public for them to actually see this process and learn how it works. Really, really cool. Really wanted to share that with y'all. And then we have our researchers for the Fish and Wildlife going out there. They'll also put fish into our resaca every few years. So we get more bass and more catfish. So definitely good for fishing too. Next slide. And if you're wondering where the Rio Grande Valley is, it's really, really all the way down there at the bottom of Texas. And that first map in that oval shows you the flyaways that come through. So when I'm talking about flyaways, I'm talking about the migratory paths of these two separate birds, one that goes into the west and one goes up north. And then here you have the 4 counties that make up the Rio Grande Valley on this other map. If you all wanted to contact me, my email and the phone number for Benson State Park are there as well. And I hope we get to see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I see we've been getting some questions in the chat, so I don't know, Vanessa, if you want to, or Nedra, either of you want to kind of field some questions for our speakers?
Yes, I think the questions that I saw have been answered in the chat as well, but I'll just go ahead and read them in case anybody wants to elaborate on them. There's a question about what type of animals are brought out to the for the community engagement at the zoos.
Yeah, so I will jump in and answer that one. So the outreach team actually has a completely different collection or set of animals. So you won't see those animals on Habitat at the zoo, but they have all manner of reptile, mammal, feathered, furry friends. We've got armadillo, we've got snakes, We've got owls, penguins, flamingos, tamanduá, which is a really interesting animal from South America. So it's a great mix, and they do a fantastic job of tailoring their presentation to age range and audience. So those can be presentations to small kids and make it relevant, up to going to senior centers and libraries and all kinds of stuff. So it's again a mix, and they do a fantastic job of talking about the animal, talking about cool things about the animal, and then talking about where the animals come from, kind of interesting adaptations. It's a great mix that they have.
Awesome, thank you. And I believe you put a link in the chat, Cheryl, about there's a question about whether the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens offers reduced admission to students participating in summer youth camps. And I believe you put a link to the form they fill out in the chat.
Yeah, yes, we absolutely have Title I programs to reduce admission, and field trips and our STEM challenges, which are self-guided STEM activities. Those will get your group in at about $6, $7 a student, which is cheaper than the normal admission. And then Title I also, there's a further discount. So fill out the form, come see us.
Perfect. And there was a question about COVID protocols. I guess this was for any of the locations. And also, I think some people mentioned in their presentations whether reservations were required. For example, I know the Wildflower Center said that for their event, the reservations required. But does anybody want to talk about what COVID protocols they have and require reservations?
Yeah, our COVID protocols are changing with CDC guidance. Masks are strongly encouraged. Right now, they are required in indoor buildings, and a lot of our pre-registered programs do require masks, but we're mostly outdoor facility, and we are trusting people to keep their distance if their mask is off. And that is what we have seen, is that people are very much keeping their distance outdoors.
And I can jump in from the zoo's perspective. We are in the same boat as those protocols are changing rapidly. Right now, masks are strongly encouraged outdoors. They are required in some of our indoor areas just because of the limited space we have. But as we shift that, they'll probably roll back to strongly recommended there. And we're just encouraging people to keep as much space as they can. We are, I think, going to continue to require masks on anything that is an animal encounter. So we do have some giraffe feeding and things like that will still require. And we are maintaining our reservations required system. That was new for us as a COVID move, but it's been fantastic for just managing crowds and flows. So that's going to stay in place for a while now.
Awesome. And it looks like it is recommended for the Lady Bird Johnson Center to check out the website for their current guidelines. And it looks like at the Travis Audubon, it's masks are encouraged but not required. So yeah, I guess for any of these locations, it's probably best to go to your website just to check and see if there's any updates on the requirements and for reservations. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions that I saw, unless you saw some other ones, Nedra or Danielle.
No, I didn't see any.
Yeah, I didn't see any either.
But I think a road trip is in order.
Yes. I think, well, that was kind of the idea behind the program. It's kind of like a road trip to see all the different organizations and that are out in Texas. So to bring more family outdoors during this time. So
yeah, but, lots of great options. I'll definitely be checking out some of them soon this summer.
Yes. All right. Well, I think this concludes our program. Thank you all, and thank you to my presenters that presented today. I really appreciate it. It was really great information. I hope that everyone that attended received some well information and can get out and go to some of these locations, take your family, enjoy the outdoors. So, and that would be it. Any closing questions, Danielle? I mean, closing comments, I'm sorry.
No, we just like to, again, thank the Dallas Public Library and our partners for today's presentation. It was fantastic information. And Vanessa, I think you guys are sharing the link to the recording to everyone who attended or registered.
For everyone that registered, yes, I'll send out a link to the YouTube recording. So if someone missed something, or just want to, or even share it out to other people, because I think there's a lot of great ideas for things. I know I was taking notes of where all the places I'm going now.
Absolutely. Very good. So thank you for doing that. And we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.